Today I'm going to take you on a tour of our homestead. It's been a few months since I've updated you, so there have been a lot of changes. Hi everybody, welcome back to Bustling Home. For example, well, that hasn't changed. The dog's following me. We have gotten ducks, turkeys, and chickens. Right now they're in a temporary home inside of an electric fence. The chickens are in a chicken tractor. It's an A-frame that we built out of 2x4s and chicken wire. So it's not really predator proof, but it is good enough for inside the electric fence. You can hear the ducks quacking all over. They're just inside the electric fence. At night we put them inside of a dog cage just to keep them collected. I don't think it's really that necessary, but we do it anyhow. Get them used to being in a small space or smaller space. And then in the chicken wire enclosure back there, we have the turkeys. Right now we have 6 turkeys. I think there are only 2 females in that bunch. One of them ended up being a broad-breasted that was supposed to be a Narragansett. So I think we'll only have 2 females and 1 male by the end of this year, because we're aiming to have only 1 male so they don't get in fights. For the ducks we have 2 different types. The dark ones are Cayuga. We have 1 male and 2 females. And the brown ones are Khaki Campbell. We have 1 male and 3 females. The reason we have more Khaki Campbell females is because the male didn't come until later. So I didn't want to have him alone. And I got another female to go with him. So that was not planned. Right now in the chicken enclosure, we have 21 chickens. There might be a couple of roosters in there, I'm not real sure yet. Based on what I've asked more experienced people online, it looks like my Rhode Island Reds might both be roosters. We'll see. I'm not sure yet. I'm not good enough at telling the difference. And we lost one of our chicks a few days ago maybe. But that one had always been kind of sickly from the beginning. It's the one that had pasty butt repeatedly. It was a cream leg bar that I got sort of on a whim a little bit late, because they laid teal or blue eggs. So I thought that would be an interesting addition to our flock. So that's what we've got so far for the birds. Let's go take a look at the gardens. Here we are in the main, I guess, annual garden, veggie garden. This is protected by the same net fencing that we use around the birds. It's from Premier One. I can link to it below. And I'll also link to the energizers that we use. They're solar on a battery. So in this garden, the things that are doing the best are actually the ones that grow like invasive species. Because as you can see, it's nice and green everywhere, even where it's not supposed to be. We tried to spray the entire thing with glyphosate or glyphosate at the beginning of the season, which is supposed to kill everything. Except it has temperature requirements and water requirements. This year, we haven't had water. In southeast Wisconsin, we are really low on rain. Like, the last time I checked, we were maybe at 60% of the total rain we were supposed to have. And we haven't gotten much lately. There's a chance of rain later this week, but we are just not keeping up on the water requirements for anything. And I've honestly not been very good at watering things. So, what is growing well are the winter squashes. These are Jardel squashes. The zucchinis are doing pretty well because they grow pretty much no matter what. I'm trying a different variety of zucchini this year. These are not the Black Beauty, they are Fort Hook zucchinis. And I can't tell much of a difference yet. We'll see if I can later on. The pepper plants are small, but they're doing really well and they're producing really well. Last year I had the exact opposite, that my pepper plants were really tall, but they didn't produce, so we didn't have peppers. I kind of prefer the ones that make peppers. Then we have the tomato plants that are kind of doing the same thing. They're really small, probably because they got encased by weeds and haven't had water. But they are producing at least some tomatoes. This is nowhere near the harvest we had last year, because, I mean, with how small they are, there's just not enough space on the vines, honestly. If I watered them, they'd probably do better because I see a lot of them getting crispy, so maybe I'll have to come out and water tonight. But there are reasons I haven't been keeping up with this. If you watch me on Instagram, you might know one of them. It's this big bubble down here called a baby. Yeah, I'm about halfway through pregnancy, and for the first trimester I was really tired. Not too much with nausea this time, but I have not been handling heat well at all. And since it's been a kind of hot, dry summer, I haven't been able to get out in the garden. If you remember, I have 6 other kids that I have to take care of all day, so I can only come out when they are in bed, or having nap time, or we have childcare. We haven't had much childcare, and by the time of the day comes around that I can get out here and it's cool enough, I'm tired or it's dark. Gardening by flashlight doesn't go well if you've ever tried it. We've tried it and doesn't work well. So moving along here, south of the pepper plants, I was supposed to have ground cherries. They died. They're gone. Then over here on the other trellises, I was supposed to have cucumbers here. They didn't even sprout. I think that's because they were in the ground before we had a big drought and they just didn't get watered. I mean, even watering with our hose wasn't enough for them. We have a few of them hiding in here. There's one that we sprouted and 2 of them that we got at the store. And then on the other side, what is actually doing reasonably well, and you can see a bunch of yellow blossoms on there, those are the lemon cukes. The ones that I was just pointing to before that are supposed to be our pickling cucumbers. So, I don't know if we'll have pickles this year. We'll see. Maybe they'll come around by the end of the season. We can still pickle something. The vines that are doing much better over there are the loofah gourds. So, I guess we'll have loofah gourds for whatever that's worth. They're not, well, they are edible, but I didn't intend to eat them because we have a lot of squashes already. And down here we have more pepper plants. I way overplanted the pepper plants because I'm not sure, well, until they started producing fruit, I wasn't sure which ones were which. Because I started my seeds in what used to be my kids' playroom, and they went in there and they moved the tags. So I didn't know if I was planting a sweet bell pepper or if I was planting a cayenne pepper, and it makes a difference. Then to the south, where it looks mostly like grown-up grass, that's where our winter squashes are. We have buttercup and butternut in there. And I think even with all the weeds, the winter squashes will do fine because they're basically like, they grow like a weed. They're kind of like an invasive species. On the ground here we have some mini melons, the orange ones. What are the orange ones called? Cantaloupes. Minnesota midget melons, that's what they're called. Then we planted a few different types of corn. In the closer patch, right here, we have striped japonica, atomic orange, and Stoll's early sweet corn. Because I would like to have some sweet corn to put on the grill. And then the other 2 are experiments. And the far patch of corn over there, that is Abenaki maize that we saved seeds from last year. And the Abenaki maize is doing much better than the other varieties so far. So we might just stick with Abenaki maize from here on out and maybe try some sweet corn. Just because I like sweet corn on the grill. Or maybe we'll just buy it. It's not essential. There are a couple of small patches of weeds here that have pumpkin vines in them. These are naked seed pumpkins. I think the ones that survived are the Pepitas F1 pumpkins. The Lady Godiva pumpkins, kind of like the cucumbers, didn't sprout. We've had a lot of trouble with water, and it's caused some problems in the garden because apparently weeds will grow without water, but garden plants won't. Who knew? This other giant weed patch behind me is where we have rows of stuff. Some of that we need to mow down. Like the turnip row is done. And the rutabaga row is destroyed by voles. So those are kind of a lost cause, but those we can plant a second round. So we're planning on mowing down a bunch of this, trying to kill off everything. Not sure of the method on that yet. We're trying out some stuff. And then replanting for a fall crop. We're gonna have to do the same with beets and carrots because the beets and carrots just didn't do anything. The weeds grew too fast for them. And obviously we don't really have a good weed control method yet. But this is one of the things that we're trying. This black plastic. Since glyphosate has some limitations on when it works, black plastic, all it needs is hot and sun. We got hot and sun this year. So we laid that out, put a bunch of weights on it, and we're gonna leave it out in the hot sun for a few days and try to just bake the holy crap out of everything. Because if the plants are dead and the soil is sterilized, nothing's growing, right? And our plants aren't in there yet, so we can kill everything. And that's about it for the garden right now. Let's go take a look at the south garden where we had onions and we have potatoes. It's going to be much the same story because we just cannot get a good method of weed control so far. Part of it is a lack of time on our part, and part of it is a lack of skill. Because if you remember, this is only my second year gardening, so I'm not that good at this yet, and I don't expect to be for a while, but man, I'd like to have fewer weeds, because this is basically a field we're planting in, and food doesn't grow very well in a field. So let me go deal with the electric fence with two hands, and I'll meet you down at the south garden. Welcome to, well, what's left of our onions and potatoes. The potatoes are doing okay. We haven't mounted any dirt on them yet, so at this point it's going to be a really small harvest. And we did have to cut down a bunch of it because the potatoes died, and I couldn't find the onions, and we're never going to find them in the grass because the grass is outgrowing the onions, so we gave up on that. These potatoes, I kind of have hopes that we will actually get to put some dirt around them, but that's probably misplaced. We'll see. I'm not being a very good gardener being pregnant. I handle heat much better when I'm not pregnant, and I have a lot more energy, obviously. So it is what it is. Another addition to our homestead that I think will be very helpful are shipping containers. Since there is a really high premium on wood right now for construction, and a pole barn would be really expensive, much less any other kind of stick construction, we decided shipping containers are probably our best bet. So we got two of them that are 8 feet by 40 feet. That should give us about a maybe 2-car garage worth of space to play around with for storage, and possibly cut holes for windows in it later for animal housing. And the gravel pad and the shipping containers set us back, I think, about $12,000. So that's much cheaper than the, I think, $25,000 we were quoted on a 2-car garage. And they will last pretty much forever, as long as we take reasonable care of them. That's what's new in the homestead so far, and we are far from done. We still have to build the coop and the run for all of the birds. We still have to figure out fencing for goats and locate goats, decide even what kind of goats we're going to get. And the goats as a whole even depend on whether or not we can make aged cheese that does not taste like a goat. Because I don't really fancy licking a goat. Then we might add rabbits, or maybe sometime we'll try pigs. To keep up with our successes and failures, stay tuned to this channel and find me on Instagram and Facebook. All of it's at Bustling Home. Thanks for stopping by. I'll see you next time.